Thanks again for being here, everybody. I'm Erin. I'll be your host, your moderator today. We'd like to let you know that you're invited as well to all our programs through PD Health at Home. We've got Wellness Wednesday, Fitness Friday, and expert briefings coming up. And our Spanish language program, EP Salud en Casa. So you can learn more about these virtual programs at our website, parkinson.org/PD Health. PD Health at Home is presented by the Light of Day Foundation, whose generosity has made this programming possible. And today I'm excited to welcome back Dr. Taylor Rush from Cleveland Clinic. Thanks so much for being here today and looking forward to our mindfulness session.
Thank you, Erin. And it's so good to be back. It's so good to see everyone today. I didn't do one of these last month, and it feels like June was forever ago. So I'm so happy to be able to spend some time with you guys, and certainly see some familiar faces and some familiar names that are popping up in the chat. So again, thank you all for coming in and being with us just to try to facilitate a brief mindful moment, right? And so, even as we kind of guide into our practice today, I just want to make sure that everyone feels like they've arrived, right? Because maybe the day's been rushing around and everyone's been helter-skelter, or maybe there are things that come up that were unexpected, but we are all here now. So let's take maybe one or two deep breaths, maybe notice your feet supporting underneath you. And just maybe taking a moment to ask yourself, what am I bringing into this moment right here today? And know that you just need to come as you are. There's no need to change anything. You're here. You made it. That's what matters. So thank you for being here. So I was giving some thought to what I wanted to discuss with you guys today. And I was thinking about something that, I kind of use my experiences and conversations with people to kind of inspire my sessions with you guys. And one thing that I think happens to all of us, but can become especially prominent and powerful when managing Parkinson's, is that when something difficult or challenging happens, our mind has this tendency to add another layer of difficulty on top of it. So there's this Buddhist teaching that's sometimes called the story of two arrows. And the idea behind it is that in life, there is going to be inevitable difficulty. There are going to be things that cause us challenges or suffering. And it's a little like being struck by an arrow. And so those things that just happen in life that we can't control or predict are the first arrow. So it could be physical pain, it could be an emotional pain, or just something generally outside of our control. And then very often our mind decides to fire a second arrow. And it might be, why is this happening to me? I can't handle this. What if whatever's happening is going to get worse? And so the first arrow of something challenging is difficult enough by itself. But then that second arrow often carries fear and judgment and trepidation and maybe resistance that can start to quickly collect around the primary experience. And so when we think about this through the lens of mindfulness, it's not about pretending that the first arrow doesn't hurt. It does. The challenges that we face in life can really be hard. So with Parkinson's, if your body feels stiff or rigid, or fatigue becomes overwhelming, or maybe medication is wearing off, those are very real experiences. We're not going to talk you out of the idea that that's hard. It is hard. Instead, we want to learn to notice when our mind starts to make an already challenging moment even harder. So, one example that has definitely come up when I'm chatting with my patients is that, imagine you're getting ready to leave your house. Maybe you have an appointment or a lunch date with friends, and then all of a sudden your body starts to feel a lot slower than it did an hour ago. And so the first arrow might be my body is moving slower right now because that's what's happening. But then the mind can add, here we go again. Is this my Parkinson's getting worse? I'm going to be late. I need to hurry. Maybe I shouldn't have agreed to even go to this. What if I can't go to this? So things start to increase and escalate in terms of how we are feeling in that moment because your brain is kind of piling on at that point. And so we went from a difficult moment to possibly an entire narrative for how your afternoon is going to end up or how the next, year is going to end up if this means something about my symptom escalation. So that second arrow is often, laced with judgment and some prediction about the future that we can't necessarily predict, as well as resistance to the situation that what is. So in those moments, again, we're not looking to pretend that your body moving slower isn't difficult. Parkinson's symptoms can be incredibly frustrating, especially under a ticking clock. A lot of my patients will note that their symptoms get worse when they feel under pressure to move quicker. So frustration is real, anger is real, grief is real. So we're not trying to, Pollyanna our way out of this and think more positively. It's just how do we become more curious about how we approach the situation? And do we actually need to add a second arrow to a moment that's already difficult? So we're going to experiment with that a little bit today. And that is going to be through how do we notice something difficult is happening? Can we name the first arrow? Is it physical discomfort? Is it, tremor? Is it freezing? What is the first arrow? And then what is the second arrow that may come directly after? So notice the situation, name what's going on. And then third, we want to try to soften our reaction. Can I maybe reduce some of the struggle that I'm experiencing about what's going on, even by a small percent? And that doesn't mean that you just, you soften as in you relax everything or try to, make your symptoms disappear, but it could mean, am I adding to this by clenching my jaw and I can soften that? Can I create an intentionally slower breath? Can I distance myself from judgmental thoughts about what this situation means? Can I maybe offer myself some compassion? So we're going to practice a little bit around what this could look like to notice, name, and then soften. Okay. So we're not trying to get rid of anything. We're just practicing noticing the difference between having an experience and then that extra struggle that sometimes starts to accumulate around it. Okay? So let's do a little experimenting with this, all right? So go ahead and get into your comfortable supported position if you're not already there. You want to make sure that your feet feel grounded and make sure that your back feels supported. And just take a moment to allow your breath to move naturally. Not trying to take intentionally deep breaths. We're just noticing the rhythm of your breath as it naturally wants to glide. Just noticing the sensation of that breath, noticing what you're feeling in your body, just grounding to the here and now. And keep in mind, for this to be effective, you do not have to sit perfectly still. For many people, they may notice the need to shift or move, and there are no rules against that. So feel free to do whatever makes your body feel the most comfortable, okay? So now I want you to just create a little space to invite awareness of your physical sensations right now. Maybe there is some stiffness. Maybe you notice tremor, fatigue. Perhaps you may also notice warmth or coolness, or maybe certain pressure points where the furniture beneath you is supporting you. And this doesn't mean that, we're looking for symptoms. We're not scanning for issues. We just want to simply notice what's already there. And sometimes we call this somatic tracking. And we just want to describe those physical sensations with kind of neutral language. So you may notice tightness or pressure or movement, heaviness. And so those are the kinds of descriptors we want to lean towards rather than, oh, this is bad, or, oh gosh, I'm afraid this is going to get worse, or this isn't tolerable. Those judgmental reactions tend to be part of that second arrow. So we're really trying to differentiate between sensation and interpretation. And just spend a few more moments noticing and describing sensations you see come about without necessarily engaging in interpreting them. That is sometimes harder than we realize until we give it a try. And now I want you to see if you can notice some of those thoughts or emotional reactions to those sensations in your body. What does your mind have to say about it? It might be as simple as, I don't like this. I wish it would stop. Why is this happening right now, today? Just notice what thoughts or emotions may arise in reaction to those physical experiences. You don't have to argue with those thoughts or try to tamper down the emotional reactions. Just want you to meet it by simply saying to yourself, there is that second arrow. These sensations are what's happening, and this is what my mind is adding. In mindfulness, we sometimes call this being a third party observer. You are witnessing and describing what is happening in real time, as if you're almost watching it from the outside, seeing how the mind reacts to discomfort, to challenges. So, as we better understand and name some of these things, we then want to see what we can do to soften that struggle just a little bit. Is there anything here that maybe you don't need to carry quite so tightly? Maybe softening the shoulders or loosening your jaw, allowing for uncertainty. And maybe even consider saying to yourself, this is difficult and I can meet this moment. I don't have to like it in order to allow it to be here. I can respond to it without fighting myself. And just one moment like this does not tell me the whole story. This moment does not tell me the whole story. I can meet this moment, allow it to be here, and I don't have to like it, but I also don't have to fight it. We've spent quite a bit of time looking inward on this experience. I want you to consider pulling your attention outward a little. And that could mean opening your eyes if they've been closed or focusing them if they've been softly unfocused. But maybe notice light or color that's in your room. Notice any sounds you may hear. Notice the feeling of the space directly around your body. Briefly reminding your brain that there is a world that exists outside of ourselves. Which can also serve to remind us that discomfort can be here, and so can everything else. So tremor may be here, stiffness may be here, and light is also here. Sounds from my home or environment are also here. My breath is here. My life is larger than this sensation. Well, you can briefly return to attending to your breath and your body. And as we start to bring our practice to a close, I want you to briefly notice if anything has changed. Just observing with a sense of curiosity. Has anything shifted in that second arrow? And if so, taking note of what that is. Anything in particular that may have brought it about. And finally, just taking a moment of gratitude for showing up for yourself today. You can place one hand over your heart if that's comfortable, or perhaps hands together. Something that grounds you to yourself, and taking one or two more intentionally deep breaths here. And slowly bringing your mind and your body back to our Zoom space here. We can take a few minutes to reflect on what this experience was like for you today. And as people start to orient back, and feel free to place any comments or observations or questions in the chat. And I really want to keep in mind that this practice is meant to help us shift from how do I get rid of this? That's often kind of where our brain goes, to how do I keep this moment from becoming harder than it already is? And that can take some time. I think we end up having some very instinctual protective responses of trying to push away or get rid of things that fortunately we are unable to escape. But sometimes if we can create a little more space around this, it helps us to feel like we have a little bit more of an understanding of what we can do to help ourselves in that situation. And we've got a few people who enjoyed the practice today. And someone said, my tremor settled, my thoughts were positive, and I dodged the second arrow. And I like that idea. So it's like, duck and weave. Um, but really we're allowing ourselves to be peaceful and settled with ourselves. We're the ones who throw that second arrow. And so, what we're doing is we're putting the bow down and saying, I can be here right now. And because so often we end up, inadvertently fighting ourselves on things that just unfortunately make life a little harder. And said they felt relaxed and peaceful. And someone asked, is it quote unquote normal to fall asleep during the session. I would say so. I have a story about that from when I was doing some of my training. There was someone in our group that inevitably it was at 7 o'clock at night, and they would always fall asleep, which is one thing, but they also snored very loudly. And so everyone knew when this person would fall asleep. And something that the facilitator said that always stuck with me is that if you fall asleep during this practice, your body might be telling you something about what it needs right now, even more than meditation. And maybe there is a need for more rest. I also think that for many of us, we're so conditioned to only be in a state of rest or peace when we're trying to sleep. So our brain only associates that sensation of being at ease with sleep. And so sometimes over time, what we'll find is that people start to be able to distance that. So I would say at first, yes, it can certainly be normal. One, it may be telling your you something about your body's needs, and it also may be something that's conditioned for rest that over time can improve. Someone said, I don't have to like this, I don't have to change this, I can meet the moment, which helped to counter the scariness. Yeah, it's part of that. Those of you who know me know I'm a big fan of paradox. I talk about it often. That I can allow this and not like it. You'll notice that I use the word and a lot instead of but, because we often hold more than one thing to be true at the same time. And someone said I stopped panicking and cleaning up the table. So we had a moment to just be in this practice. And someone else said, I noticed that my automatic negative thoughts are second arrows and not something I need to hold on to. I can let them be and float away like it came. Yes. And I love that you point that out, that sometimes those thoughts are automatic. Those second arrows, those second darts, however you want to describe them, are things that we can't control that will come about. Our brain comes up with all kinds of things that we didn't ask it to. But do I have to hold on to it, or am I able to let it go? And that piece of your reaction is what you have much more say over than necessarily the initial knee-jerk reaction. And someone asked, don't know why I could not concentrate today. And that's often a point where people start to get frustrated, like, why can't I concentrate today? Which can also be considered a second arrow. Or we can come at it with, I wonder why I couldn't concentrate today, and have a sense of curiosity surrounding it. Because oftentimes when I work with people individually on this, we end up uncovering some very valid reasons for why that may be the case. And how can I be able to understand that and then move on with my day and respond to my needs in ways that might serve me best? And a few others that said it was relaxing and gave perspective in this moment. So, oh, good. I'm so glad that you all enjoyed this practice today. I certainly encourage all of you to spend some time being able to delineate your first and second arrows of experiences and seeing what opportunities may sometimes exist to soften that a bit. And I think this is an ongoing evolution of a practice. I certainly find myself often trying to better understand how I can soften my second arrows. And so I hope that this allows you just yet another tool to be able to manage with a little bit more ease and be able to show yourself some compassion. So thank you. Thank you so much all for being here. And I will turn it back to Erin.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Rush. It was really great to see all those comments and so much appreciation for your time today. So thank you again. Uh, for our next Mindfulness Monday session will be August 17th, Embracing the Ordinary. When our lives become hectic, it is easy to miss the beauty and wonder of simple, ordinary moments of our lives. During this session, we will have an opportunity to pause and embrace these ordinary moments with curiosity and an open heart. Feel free to browse our recorded sessions by visiting our website. And do not hesitate to reach out. We have a comprehensive website and many resources that address everything related to Parkinson's. That's parkinson.org, or you can call our helpline at 1-800-4PD-INFO, or you can also email us at helpline@parkinson.org. Thanks again for joining us and hope you have a great week. Take care.